Welcome to Crimepedia. I am your host. My name is Morgan. I hope you are having a wonderful day. And with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host. It is the lovely Cherry. Hello, Cherry.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good. It's raining. I'm happy.
Well, it's better than melting, you know.
Well, yeah, it's very hot here
been
still.
hot.
Yeah, it's been very hot. And it's still really warm. It's still really, really warm. Even though it's raining, it's still very warm at the moment. Good weather for sea swimming.
I bet.
Although I don't know. I don't like sea swimming.
No, you don't? No?
No, I've got a thing about there's stuff that swims in the sea that I think will get into your pants. Not my kind of thing. No. So up into my knees, absolutely fine. Any further than that, not happening unless we're in Greece.
No.
It's crystal clear water and I can see what's down there.
Oh, yes.
Then I'll sea swim.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I think that's pretty valid.
So what do we have going on this week? Any news to pass along?
I don't think we do have any news, actually. Oh, I want to say thank you to all the people that have left us reviews. If you are inclined to leave reviews, thank you so much. And you can do it, and it does help push our podcast up the charts. And also thank you to the people that I've read that have been recommending us. When you get the whole Twitter and the Instagram or Facebook, recommend me a podcast. And we've had quite a few that have recommended us, and it's really kind of you. So thank you very much for your recommendations. We do really appreciate it. It's nice to get new listeners, and it's really nice to be recommended. It's lovely. So thank you very much.
Yep. And I think we mentioned this a few weeks ago. We're spotlighting some of our favorite podcasts and our podcast friends before each episode. And so this week we have our good friend Sarah Ferris from Conning the Con.
Sarah has got like three different podcasts. She's got a new one that's called Clueless, which is absolutely fascinating. And Conning the Con is a story of something that happened to her sister. So definitely check out her podcast. It's absolutely brilliant. Not only is she brilliant at what she does, she's a really nice lady as well. And I think you'll enjoy her podcast.
Yep. And we're also about 7 weeks away from CrimeCon Glasgow, correct?
Yes,
you'll be there.
Are. Yeah, we'll be at CrimeCon Glasgow. It's partnered with CBS Reality, and it's a full day of immersive true crime stuff, focusing on some Scottish cases. There's going to be podcasters there. There'll be authors there. There'll be speakers there. It's a lot more intimate in the fact that it's a bit different to the London one, that when you there's certain times Podcast Row is on, and that's all that's on. So you go to Podcast Row, and then everybody can then go and watch the speakers. So you'll get the podcasters sat in with you watching the speakers talk. The speakers will be walking around Podcast Row afterwards and things like that. So it looks like it's going to be a really good lineup. It looks like it's going to be a really good day. So it's at the Glasgow Hilton, and it's on the 10th of September. So tickets are still available. And if you are thinking of going, there's some bargain ways to pay for it. So just check on their website, crimecon.co.uk, click on the book now. You can also get discounted tickets if you want to stay over for the night as well. And then to get yourself a discount off of your show ticket, you can just put Crimepedia into the I think it's in the end when you go and pay for it, and that will give you a discount off of your tickets as well. So it's all good.
Excellent. Well, with that, how about we jump into this week's episode?
Okay.
Andrea Knabel volunteered countless hours searching and advocating for missing persons. But in August 2019, after an argument with family members, Andrea would go missing and has never been seen or heard from again. Was Andrea a victim in an escalating domestic dispute? Did she simply just walk away? Or did a high-risk lifestyle finally catch up with her? This is Crimepedia, and this is Where is Andrea Knabel? All right, Cherry. Andrea Michelle Knabel was a 37-year-old mother of two from Louisville, Kentucky. She was the oldest daughter of Cheryl and Mike Knabel. From an early age, Andrea felt like the black sheep of the family, believing that her parents favored her youngest sister, Sarah, over her.
Oh, no.
Andrea was a graduate of the University of Louisville and had worked as an analyst at Humana. She was also an active member of Missing in America, a group of volunteers based in Louisville dedicated to the investigation and the solving of missing person cases. Now, Andrea would be introduced to this group when one of her own friends went missing in Lexington, Kentucky on September 1st, 2017. During the search for her friend, she would meet Nancy Schaefer, the founder of Missing in America, who offered the group's assistance in searching for Andrea's friend. Now, during the search, Andrea and Nancy would become really good friends, and Andrea would soon begin volunteering for Missing in America. However, shortly after the disappearance of her friend, Andrea's life seemingly started to spiral. Around December 2017, Andrea began dating a man named Brian Downey. He's a 34-year-old man with a checkered past. Brian had been arrested multiple times for offenses ranging from car theft to walking around Walmart naked and high on methamphetamine.
I was just about to say, I bet he was high. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Bit of a bad boy.
Now, despite her family's concerns, Andrea would move in with Brian in March of 2018, and the two would become engaged later that spring. Now, two actually never did get married because on July 6, 2018, Brian was pulled over by Louisville police who found enough meth in his car to charge him with drug trafficking. Now, Andrea would move in with Nancy after this in September 2018, but things would only continue to get worse for her. In December, Andrea found herself in a significant credit card debt and was forced to file for bankruptcy. She was also in the midst of a custody battle for one of her two children. Now, shortly after this, Andrea was fired from her job at Humana.
Oh, she's really having a tough time, isn't she?
She's really
having a tough time.
Yeah. Now, she was fired due to poor performance reviews, as well as consistently arriving late to work. One of her coworkers said around this time that she would often sleep in past noon and come into work in the afternoons. Now, by the spring of 2019, Andrea was living on food stamps and could no longer afford the apartment that she shared with Nancy. Effectively homeless, Andrea moved into her mother Cheryl's house in suburban Audubon Park. In July 2019, Andrea's sister, Sarah, and her fiance, Ethan Bates, would also move into Cheryl's home. Now, some pipes had burst upstairs in the upstairs bathroom, and Cheryl had hired Ethan to fix the pipes and complete a renovation on the bathroom. But with the new living situation, there were frequently disagreements between Andrea, Sarah, and Ethan. These disagreements were usually about problems in Andrea's life and the choices that she had been making. So it seems to be a woman who, had things going for her. And then they just all seemed one by one, the dominoes.
Everything went wrong. Yeah.
Everything.
You'd find yourself in a pretty desperate position when everything is going wrong in your life. And especially with a custody battle, because that on its own could be, enough to tip somebody over the edge. When you're fighting for custody of your children, I mean, that's horrific as any parent, a dad or a mum, that's really horrific. And then with all that other stuff going on, it's just, that's hard.
And then you find yourself living with your mother.
Yeah.
Like I said, she felt like she was the black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
And then the golden child.
That's right. Moves home too.
Now you live it moves home too.
Yeah.
And so, and I understand, like, if I had a family member who seemingly was spiraling out of control and I wanted to help, I probably would. I don't know. You kind of have to give people some tough love sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And say, you know what, you need to get yourself under control, and you need to,
especially when there's drugs involved, not even if she's not taking the drugs, but even if she's with somebody who's taking drugs, that in itself can be a very difficult thing to deal with, So, that's really hard. And it must be hard as a parent to look at your kid and go, do you know what? No, you've had enough chances. That's it now. That must be heartbreaking, because I bet every single parent doesn't want to do it. But they're trying to do it for the best of the kid. Well, and they're adults, but the best of their child.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Now, at around 8 p.m. on August 12th, 2019, Andrea would get into an argument with her mother, Cheryl, about her life choices. Now, this would quickly escalate into a scuffle with Sarah and Ethan.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And from what I understand and what I've seen, it did get violent between the three of them.
Right.
So there,
That's
so
awful.
I don't know if it was just pushing or if there was punches thrown, but
If there's more.
there was more to it than just yelling at each other.
That's not good.
Now, after things in the house settled down, Ethan would take Andrea to a nearby hospital at around 9:50 p.m. Now, it's said that at the time Andrea was needing treatment for injuries from a face infection.
Okay.
Now, I have my own thoughts on this. There were two thoughts that maybe it could have been eczema, or it could have been it could have been stress induced. I think that these facial injuries was due to meth use.
That's awful, isn't it? That happens quite a bit with meth use, doesn't it? They do start picking
It
their
does,
skin and stuff. So
yeah,
that's awful.
yeah. It's like my understanding is they feel like there's something in their skin, like
Yeah.
bugs crawling on
Yeah,
them, or
itchy.
that are in the
Yeah.
skin, and they can't help but to scratch.
That must be horrible.
Yeah. Now, after being checked out at the hospital, Andrea would then take a Lyft back to her mother's house.
Hmm.
So Lyft, that's the same as Uber. So she
Yeah.
took an Uber back to her mother's house, arriving at 11:34 p.m. Now, Andrea did not have a key to the house and could not get inside. According to Andrea's father, Mike, it would have been very likely that both Sarah and Ethan were home and awake at the time Andrea did arrive back. So there is a possibility that they had heard Andrea at the door but refused to
Just
let her in.
ignored her. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, with no way of getting inside, Andrea would walk approximately a mile south to her sister Erin's apartment, arriving at approximately 12:15 a.m. Okay.
Oh, gosh.
Now,
So that'd be
I just
unwelcome,
want to.
wouldn't it? Straight away.
Oh no, very
You'd
very
be unwelcome at that time of night just turning up.
yeah. But at the time when she did arrive, Andrea, who was clearly in distress, would tell Erin about the fight that she had early in the evening.
Hmm.
Andrea would tell Erin that she was upset because her mother, Cheryl, Sarah, and Ethan were disappointed in her life choices and felt like she was being ganged up on.
Yeah. Which you would feel like that, wouldn't you?
No, absolutely. Now, Erin would invite Andrea inside to watch television in an attempt to calm her
Calm
down.
her. Yeah.
While Andrea was in the house, Erin called Cheryl, urging her to tell Sarah and Ethan to let her back into the house. Now, at the time, Cheryl wasn't staying at the house while these renovations were going on. She was actually staying elsewhere. So at the house was just Sarah and Ethan.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
At 1:03 a.m., Erin dropped Andrea off at their mother's house. But 7 minutes later, Erin received a text message from Andrea stating that they would not let her in. And at 1:38 a.m., Andrea was back at Erin's apartment where she begged to be allowed to stay the night.
Oh, it's horrible. What a horrible situation.
It's absolutely horrible,
It
yeah,
is
because
horrible.
the the place that you call home, even though you probably don't want to be living at your mother's house, you can't get in. You have
No,
your
that's
sister and
right.
her
Yeah.
fiance who are not letting you in. You have another sister who, basically said, "Hey, let's go back and
Drop
takes you
you
back."
off. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then it just only gets worse because, now she's back at her sister Erin's house begging to be allowed to stay the night,
Yeah.
but her sister refused,
Yeah.
saying that she's too volatile and she was on edge and she would be too much of a liability to allow to stay at her house. So Andrea would once again walk back to her
Oh.
mother's house, arriving back there at
Mm.
1:54 a.m. Okay. We know this
Mm.
because of phone records, right? And we also know that she was still there at 2:12 a.m.
Right.
because she attempted to FaceTime a friend, but that call was not answered.
It's hard, isn't it? Because when you've got somebody in your life that you love, but they are on this downward spiral and they're not actually admitting the fact that they are on a downward spiral or the fact that they
Uh,
can't see it themselves, it's very
yeah.
difficult when you think you've done everything you can to try and help them, it's very
Mhm.
difficult if that person continues to keep making the same mistakes or keep not getting themselves cleaned up. It must be really hard to turn your own sister away and say, look, no, you can't stay. She must have been feeling absolutely awful doing that.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely.
But if you've got
Absolutely.
your own family, or if you've got family and stuff, and you can't have somebody around behaving like that, especially if you've got like kids and stuff.
No, and Aaron did. Aaron had her own children
So
that were
that, yeah,
asleep during this
yes.
whole time,
You
and
can't
you
have
have someone
somebody
that's
turning
upset.
up behaving like that,
No, you can't.
and being involved with drugs and stuff in front of your kids. It's
Mhm.
just not on. And that must be it must have torn her to do that, because it's her sister that she loves. But at the same time, she's got her kids at home, and you can't
Yeah.
have that around kids. It's just not, it's no good.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Absolutely. Now, according to her phone records,
Hmm.
Andrea's phone was still active in the area of her mother's house as of 3:53 a.m.,
Mm.
but would be powered off shortly thereafter. The phone would be powered back on at around 6:31 a.m., but no geolocation was recorded that would
Oh,
indicate where the phone was at the time.
why would that
So really,
be? Like, why would that be?
I
So would it mean that it was turned on, but because obviously they've got the signal that it's turned on, so they know it's been turned
mhm.
on. So would that mean that it hasn't pinged off of a tower somewhere, or does that mean that how do they know that it was turned on, or how do they know that it was if there's
This
no
is all
location?
from no. So basically, they know that this is what's weird because this is coming from a private investigator, and so I don't believe that these
Oh,
are the actual
oh, I
the actual
see.
like records from
From police or
the
whatever.
police. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
Right. Okay.
And so they're going off, and so like for example, they were able to they knew about the FaceTime because the friend said, "Hey, look, here's the
Yeah.
FaceTime
Yeah, you
at
can see
at
that.
2:12 a.m."
Yeah.
And so everything else was based off of was being recorded by Google. So it's from like the
Oh,
Google records.
right, okay, yeah,
And so the Google records, even with Google, it will track like, okay, the phone's on and this is where
yeah,
you're located.
yeah,
So Google recorded that the phone had been turned on at 6:31, but there was no location that was actually
no
attached
location.
to that.
Right,
I don't even call it a ping
right,
because it's not
okay.
even a ping.
No.
And I just want to say this is what's weird about this. So as I'm going through this, I have found no information that indicates that um her either her phone records, her actual phone records were ever subpoenaed from the cell phone company.
Oh, okay, so they might not have been at all.
Yeah. So
Weird.
when we get into trying to figure out what happened to her,
Yeah,
I we don't know exactly. We know some people that she had called some people, and we know she called some people because those people came forward like, "Oh yeah, she
and
tried
said,
calling
"Yeah,
me
she
at
called
whatever
me."
time."
Yeah, yeah,
It's not like they're going through the records and saying, "Oh, well, here at you know 2:15 a.m. she's calling this person. At 3 a.m.
right.
she's calling this person," because we're looking at the actual records.
Yeah, okay.
Now, after this last, phone 631 record,
Mhm.
there has been no sign of Andrea anywhere. So this was the last sign of Andrea being being in the area,
Alive,
being
yeah.
wherever alive. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Now at 10:30 a.m. the following day, so this is August 13th, Cheryl would send a group text asking if anyone had heard from Andrea, which everyone, of course, would say no, they hadn't heard from Andrea.
Oh.
Friends were called, no one had heard from her. 4 days later, Andrea's sister's Aaron would finally file a missing persons report. Now, Louisville Metro Police would conduct dog searches, but according to private investigator Tracy Leonard, their interest in the case would start to wane once they learned about Andrea's involvement in
Drugs,
drugs.
yeah, of course. That's a bit like Karen Bodine's case in
Yes,
it's exactly the same as that. As soon as they, when
it
they
is.
found her body, as soon as they found out she was had issues with drugs and stuff, the media didn't really put very much out there to try and help solve her murder.
And I think this is why I decided to do this case because there's a lot of these cases where,
Mm,
yes, there's people that get involved in drugs. There are people that get involved in uh, high risk lifestyles,
mhm.
right?
But
That
you
go
keep
missing,
the
that go dead, but they're still people,
I was just about to
right?
say that the
You
key there is the key word there that you've just said is that they're people. People.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
humans. They do have their flaws and they have their issues. But if that was one of your family members, wouldn't you want to have someone fight in their corner for them? I don't understand.
No, exactly, right?
Mm,
Now, there were numerous rumors about Andrea and drugs.
mm.
Now, Nancy Schaefer, her friend who she met through Missing in America, believes that while they were roommates, Andrea began using meth instead of her Adderall prescription.
Oh,
So
it's
that's when she
awful,
thinks
isn't it?
she
Yeah.
began using meth. Now, there are also rumors that after Brian Downey, her previous boyfriend or fiance, was arrested, Andrea actually had taken over his drug operations and had begun working
Oh,
directly with his suppliers and his buyers.
to keep it going.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Now, her family does believe that Andrea was involved in at least some illegal activities. This is because after her disappearance, they did find a printer that had a counterfeit $100 bill inside of it,
Oh, okay.
which they found inside of a storage unit that was been rented out by Andrea.
Wow.
So it sounds like she's
Yeah, she's in deep in
she's
stuff.
desperate. She's
Yeah.
desperate. If you're at to the point where you're trying to counterfeit money,
Mm,
yeah, you're deep into something and you're very desperate.
yeah, definitely.
Now, most of the early searches, investigations were led actually by Missing in America, where they went door to door along the route Andrea would have walked, hoping to find a witness or camera footage of the night she went missing. However, within 2 months of Andrea's disappearance, relationships within Missing America group began to fray and the group would disband.
Oh, it's a shame.
It is. Now, since then, the investigations into Andrea's disappearance have been handled by the Locators, which is a company owned by private investigator Tracy Leonard, and which employs 17 full-time investigators. Now, unfortunately, in December 2020, a fire did break out in the building which housed the Locators' offices, and it destroyed many of their files related to Andrea's disappearance.
Oh, no.
So it's just unlucky. There's just
Mm,
so much unlucky things that have happened
yeah.
with this case and the investigation. Now, there are a few thoughts as to what may have happened to Andrea. Since she was having significant issues with her family, there is one thought that maybe Andrea had walked away from her life and fled into an unknown location in Indiana or Ohio. Now, there's also a possibility that Andrea, when she returned to Cheryl's home on Chickadee, she phoned a friend for a ride and that friend killed her.
Mm,
There's thought that Andrea could have been coerced into a vehicle after leaving Aaron's house
mm,
and kidnapped.
mm.
Possibility that Andrea walked off and then committed suicide, even though every family member, they wholeheartedly reject this theory.
Okay. I don't think you can
Now,
reject it 100%
no,
because, I
you
mean,
can't.
she's in a really bad place. No one's letting
She
her
is
in. She
really
can't get
bad.
hold of people. She's feeling really
Hmm.
alone and desperate. It's late at night. She's got nowhere to go. She's losing her
Hmm.
kids. She's taken over a drug business. God knows what's happening with that. I mean, I don't think you can rule out suicide because people, when you're in a desperate situation, you don't know how you'll act. So I don't think you could
No,
rule that out
exactly.
100%.
Exactly. Now, there are some that believe a very bizarre theory.
Not that she was abducted by aliens or something.
Not that she was
Okay.
abducted by aliens, but that Andrea and her friend Nancy are in secret cahoots and they're trying to leverage this case, the searcher that became the search
Oh,
for.
I see.
They're doing it for the benefit of Missing America, which doesn't make sense because after Missing America,
It's been disbanded.
basically
So, yeah.
disbanded, 2 months after, then
Yeah.
how is it going to benefit them?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
done. It's over with.
Yeah.
Now there are many people that believe that Ethan Bates is an undeniable person of interest in this case, right? So this is the
Yeah, because
fiance,
he got into a
Sarah's.
altercation with her.
Now this is what's really hard about this case. There are so many rumors
Yeah.
that it's hard to figure out what's just a rumor, and what's actually the truth.
I mean, has this guy got
Because
a good background, this Ethan? I mean, is he a previous bad character? Is he drugs or Or is he just like a guy
Um,
that's sticking up for his sister and his mother-in-law? His girlfriend, sorry, and his
oh,
mother-in-law.
he has one drug charge on his record, and that's cocaine possession, and that was back in 2009.
Oh, okay. So this is not like he's an active drug dealer or he's not involved in drugs like that. So maybe he just takes recreational drugs now and then. But that doesn't mean to say he's a murderer. I mean, it's pretty
Well, here's the
extreme.
thing. Now, Tracy Leonard, the private investigator that's been looking at this case,
Mm,
now he has accused Ethan of being linked to a vast Kentucky meth network as well.
right. Okay.
But once again,
I'd want to see the proof of that first, though.
exactly,
Yeah. I
exactly.
mean, it's all well and good saying he's linked to it, but I mean, is this that he just bought some meth from somebody, or is this that,
Hmm.
he is actually well in there and, within the I don't know. I don't think you can count on that kind of thing.
Yep,
I mean, it's a bit of a far-fetched theory to be falling out with your sister-in-law and then to kill her. And your girlfriend
exactly.
not know anything about it. The mother, I mean, she's not gonna stand for that. You murdering her sister. So I'm not
Exactly.
too sure
Yeah,
about that. I think there needs a lot more investigation into that. I think.
yeah. Now, I mean, there's some stuff that people have said and come out with, which kind of, if you look at it on the surface, like, okay, that's kind of suspicious, and
Uh huh.
maybe there's some involvement. But I think if you look deeper into it, or you think about it a little bit more, it's
Just
just like, okay,
suspicion. Yeah.
yeah. So, according to one neighbor, around the time of Andrea's disappearance, there was construction going on in the house in the middle of the
Oh,
night.
so she's under the cement again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, they also believe that they had heard construction noises coming from the house the night that Andrea went missing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first off, we know that Ethan was in the home
Mm.
to do renovations,
Yeah. Of
right?
course. Yeah.
So Ethan owns a construction company,
Yeah.
and Cheryl had hired him to come and work on some things. So, is it possible that the neighbor heard construction going on? Yes,
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Is it possible that they had been working on something at night? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's possible.
Because he lives there.
Is it possible that you heard banging and stuff because the three of them had been fighting? Yeah, that's possible too.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the night that she went missing, he killed her, and that's what
Mm.
you were hearing, and
Mm.
that she's now underneath the
But
floorboards.
the thing is that's very easily sorted, because I mean, even if they did lay fresh concrete, because it's always suspicious in a case where there's freshly laid concrete, it's always suspicious. But if that's the
Yeah,
case, then they just use ground penetrating radar to see
done.
if that, and that's it. So there's nothing like big and huge that has to go on to rubbish that theory. The other
Mhm.
thing I suppose you could say is that because he is a construction worker, he's got plenty of places that he could get rid of her that wouldn't seem strange. I mean, he probably lugs around big heavy bags, bags of
Oh
sand,
yeah,
bags of cement. So him carrying a big heavy bag is not going to be suspicious. And so
yeah,
I'm sure
you're
that
right.
there's plenty of places that he works that
Mhm.
I saw a case about this and I can't remember. There was a construction worker and he had taken the body of somebody he killed and put it underneath a job at the house of a job that he had done. So it
Mm,
wasn't anywhere near his house, but he had
yeah.
actually put it under a customer's garage floor.
Oh wow.
So the body was buried, and and it was a police officer that was looking into it, and it was only by
Yeah.
chance that the police officer looked through the jobs to see what jobs this guy had on, and there was a garage one, and
Mm,
then went and checked it, and they used the ground penetrating radar, and the body was underneath it. So that is
yeah.
another thing that I would, if I was an investigator, I'd be looking at what jobs he's been carrying out recently and where he's been working, where he usually gets rid of his surplus material, where he dumps his waste, where does he get where is um his materials, where do they come from? Is there a place where there's an
Mhm.
incinerator or something where they used to get rid of certain stuff? So I would look into him, obviously, purely because they had an altercation and he's had to deal with the fallout from a lot of her behavior. So that would
Mm,
it would
yes.
it would really sort of start to really annoy you after a while if this is constant in
Mhm.
your home life. So I would definitely look into him. He would be a person of interest to me.
Now, the other thing is with Ethan is, once again, this is speculation or rumor, that the night of that she went missing, the fight actually was in regards to Andrea's behavior around Ethan.
Mm,
Now, people have said that Andrea was trying to mess around with
mm,
Ethan in
mm.
order to kind of I don't want to say get back at Sarah,
Annoy her
but
sister.
to
Yeah.
to annoy her sister, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because, here's a golden child and you have this
Yeah.
resentment towards her.
Yeah.
And so it's easy at that point where when you feel so bad about yourself and your situation, you want to
Yeah.
bring everyone else down with you.
Yeah. And to annoy
But
your
one thing,
sister as well, you go for the one
yeah,
thing that, yeah, that means a lot to her.
exactly. But
Okay.
once again, speculation,
Of
rumor,
course, yeah, but it's something that you'd have to look into as an investigator because this isn't a
it is.
happy
Mhm.
family where this girl has just gone missing out of a completely happy family and everyone's getting on fine. There's a lot of conflict and
Yep.
upset in this family. And could it be the sister? Of course it could. That's the first people you look at: spouse, sister, family members.
Yeah, and we know for a fact Ethan and Sarah would be the last people
Would have thought,
that
yeah,
had seen her
yeah, that's
or
right.
were near her or around her.
Mm,
They were the 2 that weren't letting her into the house, so yeah,
yeah.
you'd have to look into them.
Is it? Did they
Now
find anything of hers at all anywhere? So has the mobile phone ever been recovered? No purse?
no,
No. So there's just
no,
nothing. She's just
nothing.
disappeared out of thin air.
Ex exactly, just
Okay.
gone,
Okay.
just gone.
That's interesting.
Now, according to Mike, Andrea's father,
Mm.
Ethan allegedly had wiped the data on his and Sarah's
So
phone
there you go. That's suspicious.
the night that Andrea did go missing.
Yeah,
So that would be suspicious, right?
definitely. Why would you wipe the data on your phone? That's odd.
And then 2 weeks after Andrea disappeared, Sarah and Ethan would move out of Cheryl's home and move back to Lexington, Kentucky.
Huh.
So they got out of the area.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So it is suspicious. It's piling up more and more suspicious, isn't it? Every time.
They are. The other thing I find this very strange
Okay.
is both have refused to participate in any searches for Andrea and have refused all interviews after they had been interrogated by Louisville Metro Police. So never once did they participate in a search for Andrea.
Okay.
Regardless if you are mad at her or you're
Mm.
frustrated with her or you're annoyed with her, it's still your sister. And I would feel like you would want to go out and at least help and try to find out where she is.
Did the other sister go?
Aaron, yes. So Aaron
So
did.
there you
Aaron
go.
participated.
So Erin participated in it. And like even if like the mum and dad stayed at home and waited for her to come back, then surely the rest of them would go out and look. I find that a bit strange. That would be my first port of call. That would be, I think, where I would start.
With Ethan and Sarah?
With Ethan and Sarah, just purely because of one, his business. He's a construction worker. There's a lot of
Yeah.
places that he could potentially get rid of a body. So that would be where I would start. I think that, yeah, I think I would start with them, especially purely because of what's been happening in the family. The fact that they were probably the last people to see her alive. Not that we know because we haven't actually got access to the police files. Although I think it would be very interesting too, because they haven't spoken out at all since.
Yeah.
They've only spoken to police. Not that that makes them guilty, only speaking to police. I'm not sure I would speak out afterwards, but
Yeah.
I think that they would be my first port of call purely because of the suspicious circumstances, the fact that there was anger and we know that there was conflict in the family, especially with them. And that would be who I would go at first. Definitely.
I think you have to,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Especially since they're the last people that besides Aaron, they're the last people that had known
Yeah.
we know had contact with her.
Yeah.
And that contact was, there was a violent confrontation between them.
Mm-hmm. That's
Or
right.
at least an argument.
Yeah. I would find it very difficult if they didn't look into him. Or I mean they might have done, but I don't know, I find that strange. I just find the whole situation with them very strange. I'd like to speak to them. I'd like to see, what they say about it. I'd like to see how they explain what happened with them, that kind of stuff. I think that would be a very interesting conversation. And I think that in cases it's particularly like this, they should open up things to particularly if it's a cold case and it's going nowhere. I think perhaps they should open it up for investigation.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were just telling me about Karen Bodine's case, where
Yeah,
something similar
yeah.
to that happened, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. So we covered the cases, and if you look back, it's on it's in the library of our cases. So I was listening to another podcast that featured this case, and they were talking to the detective in the episode, and the detective was saying that they were contacted by this charitable organization that wanted to look into cold cases, and so they would approach police officers and the people that were looking after these cases and ask if they could have a look at it, and that the people were made up of like doctors, armchair detectives, other than I hate that phrase, but like amateur detectives, that kind of
Yes.
thing, to look into it, because they don't look at stuff like a police officer will. Police officers are all trained in a certain way, and that's the way that they work. And so he said, well, hell, definitely, that we're stuck at the moment. If you want to look into this, look into it. So he gave them access to the police files for 3 days, I think. And in one of those, one of the people came forward and said, I don't know if you realize, but during the autopsy, a piece of paint, car paint, automotive paint, was found in her hair. And
Yeah.
the police didn't realize that this governing body of automobile associations or something in America actually kept a list and a database of car paint. And so
Yeah.
they said that if you send it back to the automobile people, they will look at it and they'll be able to tell you if it's a custom job, if it's a standard paint job. If it's a standard paint job, then they could tell you what make and model and year that vehicle came from.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
the police didn't know that.
It's amazing.
So only
Yeah.
because this policeman offered up the case file to these amateur detectives that this piece of information came about. So I think that it would be interesting to do that. And I think that particularly with podcasters and amateur detectives that there are around, there are things that they might be able to lend to the case that wouldn't necessarily be within something a police officer would look at because of the way they're trained.
No, that's really interesting. And I think, especially for this case, because there's accusations that
Of
the police
course.
department didn't do as much as
Didn't
they
do
could have
enough. That's right.
because of her circumstances and her
Mm.
possible, well, her involvement in drugs.
Yeah. So if that's the
So
case, open it up. Let other people look at it, you know?
exactly,
Let us have a look at it. I'll have a look. I'll
I
look
know
through
you
it for
would.
you. I would.
I
Yeah,
know you
I'd
would.
be very interested to see who they questioned. I'd be very interested to see the movements of the brother-in-law around the time that she went missing and after the time she went missing. A it's not going to be something out of the ordinary to see him carrying around things wrapped in tarpaulin, bags of sand, bags of cement. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's not going to be suspicious him having stuff like that, heavy stuff in the back of his truck. So
No, you're right.
could
Yeah.
he have disposed of her body somewhere? Yes, he could. Would it have been suspicious seeing him carrying carpets or bags of stuff, heavy stuff? No, it wouldn't be
No.
suspicious.
No.
Nobody would think anything of it. So yeah, that would be my first port of call. That would be where I went first. I don't particularly think that the drug part of it, although it's, she's taken over her boyfriend's drug business. And so if that's the case, the drugs part of it, it could be that now she's vulnerable because she's obviously in
Oh
possession of
no,
a lot of
absolutely.
drugs. And so she's now probably got relationships with dealers. She's probably got relationships with customers, relationships with, well, she's got to be getting the drugs from somewhere. So there's a network of people that they're not above the law. So is it that somebody else has thought, right, now he's in prison, what's she going to do about it? We'll take over his patch. We'll earn the money that he's earning and we'll get her out the way. Yes, that's another thing
Yep.
that could have happened. But
Yeah, it could have. Yeah.
given what happened that evening, given the circumstances, I don't think that they chose that exact moment to get her, and I don't think that was the case. I think it would have
Well,
been that they
no,
would
no.
set up a place for her to meet them one night,
Yeah.
and that's when it would go down.
I mean,
Not
is
just
it
randomly
possible
pluck her off the
that?
street. Sorry,
Well, it might not have to be random. Could it be a situation where she calls the wrong person, and
possibly.
either that person's it, or they
Mm.
go and said, "Oh my God, this is I
She's
know
on her
that
own. Yeah.
so and so has been looking for her
Mm.
and been wanting her. So now
Yeah,
we know she's alone.
that's right.
So I'm
And
just
no,
gonna
yeah,
tip them off like,
yeah, of
hey,
course.
Andrea is
Yeah, of
at her mom's
course.
house."
It's definitely worth looking at. But my first port of call would be that brother-in-law. For some reason, my gut instinct says that would be my first port of call.
I don't think it's someone random picking her up. I don't think that it's that at all. I
I
don't think
don't.
it's
I
just someone
agree. I agree. Yeah,
I
I
don't
agree with
think
you.
that I don't think she'd left her mom's house by foot. I think
No,
that
I don't think
either
so.
either she's picked up by someone she knew, or someone either by someone she knew, or she was removed
Mm,
from the area
mm.
by
Whoever. Yeah.
or whoever. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
I
think you're
don't
right.
think I think when she sat down at her I just imagine her sitting down like on her mother's like steps or something,
Mm,
calling whoever, trying to get a hold of someone.
mm.
I don't see her just getting up
But did
and just
she?
walking off.
No, but did she? Did she even have the chance to sit down trying to call somebody? We don't even know that because we haven't got the phone records.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
it would, yeah, I would be very interested to see this case file, to see how far they looked into this. But
Mhm.
it's a really sad case. It's not very nice. I mean, some kids have lost their mum, however troubled she was at the time, it's still their mum. And those parents have lost their daughter. And the other sister's obviously lost her sister. So it is a really sad case. And I hope that the police have looked into it as far as they can, because that must be horrible
Oh,
not knowing
absolutely.
where she is. I mean, I think you would assume that she's dead, but you don't ever know. So that's the problem. I don't think she walked away from her life. I don't think she just
No,
decided to start a new life.
she didn't have the resources to do that.
No.
What is she
So
gonna start a new life with?
that's right. Exactly. So no. But yeah, thanks very much. Thank you for this case this week. It's really really
Oh, you're
interesting
welcome.
case. I've not heard of that one before. So I'm sure lots of people probably haven't.
Yeah.
Would you like me to lighten the mood slightly?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Hey, you's a dummy, and you's a piece of shit.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, so this one is quite funny. This is, if you don't usually listen to our show, this is a segment which we do. It's just called Dumb Criminal. And it's where we just tell you some of the funny stories from the criminal underworld across the world. This one is from Kent. Now, it was it, it was published that a UK driver was arrested for
Mhm.
reckless driving. And when he
Okay.
was arrested, the officers were in stitches. Now, the fiasco began after officers attempted to pull over this Audi A7 that they had watched swerving all over the road and thought, this is a bit odd. Let's just pull him over. They tried to pull him over, but he refused. So it was like a 35-mile chase that they did, and this guy
Oh,
just
wow.
refused
Yeah.
to refused to give in. And eventually they got him, and they got him in a place called Knucklehead in Minster in Kent. And he ran out of petrol, so there was nowhere for this guy to go. But he
He
had
was a knucklehead.
he had a massive amount of cannabis in his car. So straight away, obviously they found it. I mean, it was a huge bag. It's like the size of a pillow. It's a huge bag of
Oh,
cannabis.
wow.
It was massive. So the officers asked him for his documentation, to which
Okay.
reluctantly he gave them. Now, when the officers looked at this documentation, which was a driver's license, they found out that it was a driver's license from Legoland. So when he was 13
What?
years old, he was 21 at the time he was pulled over. When he was 13 years old, he went to Legoland. Now, this
Okay.
driving license is given to kids that do this theme park driving test. So they're sat in a brick-built electric car, and they have to go around this little course, and they've got traffic lights and a roundabout, and then Lego policemen with a speed camera. And at the end of it, you get this Legoland license. And so when
Oh my
he was
God.
asked for his documentation, that's what he gave. That's what he gave them, his Legoland license.
Let me just say, that sounds amazing.
It does sound like fun. Yeah, it does sound like good fun. But I
That
think
sounds
we're a little bit
amazing.
too old, unfortunately, to be allowed
Can
to
I
go and get
I don't know.
I don't think we can. I think we wouldn't be
Can I
allowed to do
slip him
that.
like a fiver or something and
He
they'll let me
probably
do
could.
it?
So he got arrested at the scene on suspicion of dangerous driving, failing to stop, possession of a Class B drug, and then driving with no insurance and no driving license.
Oh, so it's not legal. It's not a
No,
legal license?
unfortunately, it's not a legal license. So back to the dumb criminal prison. He was released on bail until September. So yeah, he's on bail at the moment. But I thought that was very funny. Very funny.
Let me just say that driving reckless in the UK is super dangerous.
Yes,
Holy hell, you have some tiny, tiny roads.
we do, and particularly where he's driving, they are very small roads. Bexley is very small. They're like country lanes. So yeah, he was driving
Oh
stupidly.
my God. Oh yeah. When I was there and we took some country lanes, there were like times I'm like, no, Like there's 2 cars cannot be on this
No, that's right.
country road. Yeah.
Yeah. Where I live, it's like that. Most of the things you can't get 2 cars down. It's all single track roads. So yeah.
I remember there was one where the road was kind of going up a little bit, so it was going up, and then it goes over a bridge and back down. But the bridge is only like 1 car wide.
Yeah.
And so you just go for it. I'm like, and I was with my brother-in-law. I asked him like, well, how do you know if there's no other car
You
nearby?
don't.
He's like, oh, you don't. You just go.
You just go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's mad. But yeah, so thank you for being with us for this week's case. We'll be back again next week with another case. It'll be my case next week. So if you want to find us on all our social media channels, you can do. If you want a quick answer, you're probably better try Instagram because that's where you get us most. But for now, be nice.
And bye.